Hey guys, welcome back to Storytime with Mr. Isaiah. We are reading Sink or Swim, and we left off with chapter 14, so today is chapter 15. If you have missed some of our stories, be sure you go back and catch up so that we don't run off and leave you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, and don't forget to click that bell so you don't miss a thing. Be sure and leave me a comment in the comments below and let me know what you think about the story. This is pretty intense. He's just jumped overboard to try to rescue Woody in the middle of a storm with waves that are rocking that ship pretty bad. So let's just find out what happens next in chapter 15. The shock of landing took my breath away, and I plunged in a lot deeper than I thought I would, so I had to claw my way back up to the surface, still praying the whole time that somebody had heard me shouting. If not, then it didn't matter what happened because Woody and I would both be dead soon in this churning ocean. More lightning lit up the sky, and I saw him between waves, still thrashing wildly, 20 yards away. It was hard to swim with my life vest on and hold on to the ring, but I knew if I had to get to Woody fast. As panicked as he was, except another wave crashed over us, and then another. I spotted him again, but then he went under all of a sudden. My heart just about stopped until he came back up, trying to yell but spitting up salt water, coughing and gasping. I finally made it to him and grabbed his arm to hook it over the life ring. But Woody seemed oblivious to what was happening, caught up in his panic. He pulled his arm away and flailed around, nearly hitting me, and then somehow he got behind me and wrapped his arm up around my neck, pulling us both under. I fought as hard as I could, kicking, twisting, anything to get away. But Woody was a lot bigger than me, and even when I was able to pry myself free of his arm, and even with my life vest on and hanging on to the life ring, the weight of him on top of me pressed me deeper underwater. I kept fighting until I managed to wriggle free and kick for the surface, somehow still holding on to the buoy. We probably hadn't been under for more than half a minute, but I was desperate for air when I finally came up. I wasn't in the clear yet, though, because another wave crashed over me as soon as I got there, and I swallowed a lot of water. Sputtering, I gasped for air and was so scared that I just wanted to get away from Woody. Before I could get any distance from him, Woody came back up too, still panicking and trying to take a hold of me again. I was afraid he'd drown us both this time if he did, especially if he got me around the neck from behind. But I was getting weaker, worn out from being underwater, from the cold, from swallowing so much salt water, and from fighting him off while at the same time trying to hold him up out of the water. And then, out of nowhere, on the other side of a wave, I heard somebody call out our names. Danny, Woody, where the heck are you guys? Over here, I yelled. It was Strobe. I'd have recognized that big voice anywhere. The wave crested, and suddenly there he was, swimming wildly towards us, splashing so much it was like another wave crashing. Woody was still delirious, though. He grabbed me around the neck yet again, but this time, before he could pull me under, Strobe was right there with us. "Oh, no, you don't," Strobe said, taking hold of Woody's arm, and then, not even hesitating, he punched Woody in the face. And just like that, the fight went right out of Woody. I didn't know if the blow knocked him out or if it just stunned him, but he stopped flailing and trying to attack me. He just sort of went limp. Strobe and I were able to get him secured to the life ring, and then we both floated on our backs for a minute in the trough of another big wave, buoyed up by the life preservers. "Didn't think I'd be able to find you guys," Strobe said, once he caught his breath. "I saw you go over the side, and it took me a couple of minutes to find a life preserver. Did you see anybody else? Do they know we're out here? I asked. I started shivering and realized I should have never stopped moving. The water temperature was probably in the 50s, and I was losing body heat fast. Pretty sure somebody saw, Strobe said, his teeth chattering now too, but they have to turn around, and I don't know where these waves have pushed us. As if on cue, another wave washed over us, and we came up sputtering. But it wasn't as big as the one before it, and the next one seemed a little smaller too. We just have to wait, I said. Thanks for coming. I couldn't have held out much longer. Woody went kind of crazy. Poor guy, Strobe said. I guess when you think you're drowning, your brain shuts down on you and you get terrified. I guess so, I said, remembering Woody's arm around my neck and him dragging me underwater and holding me there. I wasn't through being mad at him, even if he had been out of his mind or whatever. The good news was the storm kept letting up, and the waves kept subsiding to the point where they were no longer crashing over us. The bad news was all the ships were running dark. Nobody was even allowed to light a cigarette on deck. So it would be hard to see our patrol craft. I doubted they would turn on the searchlight because of the wolf pack that was lurking around out there somewhere, maybe waiting for a target. 10 minutes passed, and our teeth were chattering so loud I could hear them. 15 minutes passed, and Woody slid low into the water, barely holding up onto the buoy. It took all my strength to help Strobe haul him back up. Half an hour passed, and my heart grew heavy. I couldn't feel my toes and fingers, and I wondered what it would feel like when all three of us slid under, when we didn't have any more strength left to hold ourselves up, even with the life vests on. Or would we freeze to death first? But I couldn't let myself think those thoughts. Strobe wasn't going to give up. He was actually humming a song, out of tune. It might have even been Keep Your Sunny Side Up. Plus, Woody needed me, Mama and Danny needed me, and then I saw it, a searchlight sweeping over the ocean, maybe a quarter of a mile away. They were still looking for us. I yelled as loud as I could, but knew that it was unlikely anybody would hear me over the noise of the engine. If that was our ship, the thought occurred to me that it could just as easily be a U-boat, and I stopped yelling. But Strobe picked up where I left off with his big booming voice. The ship came closer and the searchlight swung closer until finally, thank God, it found us. At that point, I didn't care if it was a U-boat or a pirate ship. I was just relieved. I didn't have to wait long to find out that it was in fact our ship. A few minutes later, the searchlight was fixed on us, and somebody was throwing a couple more life rings and a line with the harness over the side. Strobe and I looped the harness around Woody, who was starting to come out of his stupor, and they hauled him up on board. Then they threw out the line again, and I fastened the harness on myself the way they taught us in boot camp, and they hauled me in. Strobe insisted on going last. I thought everybody would be happy to see us and grateful that we were alive. Instead, once they got Woody up and moving around, Chief Kerr chewed us out for a good 10 minutes in front of the entire crew. Woody for coming up on deck without a life vest, and Strobe and me for going into the ocean after him instead of following standard procedure and sounding the alarm for man overboard. I felt about as low as I could be by the time he was finished. I guess he did it to make a point to everybody else about safety and following orders and everything, but it sure didn't take long for me to go from feeling like I was some kind of hero to feeling like I'd let the whole ship down. I still knew, though, that I hadn't gone in after Woody. If I'd sounded the alarm and waited for the ship to turn around to find him, and if Strobe hadn't gone in after me, that Woody wouldn't have made it out alive. Chief dismissed everybody and ordered me and Woody and Strobe to change our wet clothes and get cleaned up and dried off. They put Woody in the sick bay since he was still pretty out of it, but Strobe and I had to clean below decks for the whole rest of the night, even though we both had a scheduled watch until the next morning. For a long time we worked in silence. Then, after a while, I asked Strobe if he thought Woody knew what had happened. Strobe thought about it for a bit, then said, "I bet he doesn't remember, and if he does, I guess maybe it's best that we not say anything to him about it because he'd feel pretty terrible. And what the heck, I think just about anybody might lose their head in a situation like that. You never know, and I ain't going to judge him or anybody else." We got quiet again, finishing up mopping, and then, my eyes all red and tearing up, I said, "Thanks for saving me, Strobe." "It's okay, Danny," he said back. "You saved Woody, and he'll return the favor to us one day." They let Woody out of the sick bay the next day, and the first thing he did was come find me and Strobe. We were both blurry-eyed from lack of sleep after being up all night, plus exhausted from being in the water for far too long, and fighting the waves and Woody. He started to say something but got choked up, tears filling his eyes and spilling over down his cheeks. Strobe put his arm around Woody's shoulders. "You don't have to say anything," he said. "Could have happened to any of us, and you'd have been there jumping in to save us too." I nodded. "Yeah, I don't doubt it for a second." After a minute, Woody found his voice. "I know I went kind of crazy out there," he said. "I don't much remember all of it, but I'm ashamed of what I do remember." Strobe waved as if he was swatting the words away, like so many flies. "Water under the bridge," he said. "Or under the patrol craft," I added. "Anyway, one thing I didn't tell you guys was I actually peed on myself when I saw Woody get swept overboard. I figured I had to dive in, not so much to save Woody as to wash the pee off my pants. That way no one would know." Strobe and Woody broke out laughing. "Well, they're going to know about it now," Strobe said, and that was the end of that. Except for after my watch, when I climbed down from the observation post like a zombie because I was so tired, and I ran into the chief. He was leaning on the rail, looking at the ships strung out in front as far as the eye could see. He motioned me over. "Yes, Chief," I said nervously. He was smoking a pipe. It reminded me of my dad's pipe. He tamped out the tobacco and ashes and slid the pipe into his pocket. "I don't know what mother back there on land is sitting up nights worrying about her son, but I do know that it's my job to make sure that son, no matter how old he is, makes it home safe from this convoy and this war. Do you understand me?" I nodded, but didn't speak. "And another thing," he started, then stopped. "Yes, Chief," I said again. He grunted. "That was a heck of a thing you did last night to save your buddy, and a heck of a thing Strobe did to save you. I guess if there is a mother back there on land sitting up nights worrying about her son, she'd be only awfully proud of one if she knew." So he's saying she would be a very proud mom if she knew what he had done to save Woody. So that's the end of chapter 15, guys. And story's getting really, really good. I don't know what you guys think, but I am loving this story. So again, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss a thing, and make sure and leave me a comment. Let me know what you're doing or how you're feeling or whatever. I love hearing from you guys. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.